There are always famed matchups in the history of man. David versus Goliath, Freddy versus Jason, me and my addictions to rich literature, and of course, critics and audiences. Now these two beings have been at each other's throats for as long as man would have it, and there's a multitude of reasons for why that is. This extends to several different mediums: movies, television, video games, you name it. Anytime critics have anything to say, expect the people to have a response to what was said. As I sit back and wonder why these things are the way that they are, I figured talking about it can make for an interesting convo. Or not, what do I know? But it's something that I think could be delved into at the very least. People nowadays are very careful where they hear their critiques coming from. For example, if you see a review coming out of IGN, you tend to not give two flying fucks about it from their beautiful track record of explaining their opinions.
Shin Megami Tensei 5 feels like the edgier, less sociable younger brother of Persona 5.
And that's usually the case for a fair amount of places: Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, The Guardian. It's not a matter of the person having the right stance, it's the fact that they usually know what to expect from these types of sites. IMDb is more on the funnier side though, for me at least. But usually from certain places you can tell that the opinions shared by users are not done in good faith, whether it's nitpicking or making a non-issue out of something.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Completely misunderstanding the point of why a work exists. The list goes on. Usually critics' minds are far detached from what the average person is thinking because they're viewing said work in a much different light. It's their job to provide an opinion that people can look at and make a judgment call on whether or not something is of worth to them. Criticism has a place, absolutely, but the way it's been constructed over the years has left people not even wanting to engage with it. It's not really done out of the enjoyment, but more of the, hey, this needs to get out so I can get paid kind of thing. Consuming content is business for them, whereas the average Joe is going to the movies for the sake of enjoyment. So when it seems that a critique is downright miserable in how it's said, that definitely plays into it. They have to watch hundreds of thousands of films or play several video games at the time, and most of them can range from very mediocre to just outright awful. Now, this doesn't excuse the sheer ignorance that a lot of them carry, but just to put things into perspective is all. Which doesn't mean they don't enjoy what they do, but that's something to keep in mind most of the time whenever you see a review going around. Another reason people have issues with critics a lot is due to the site or user having no idea what it is they're talking about and the fact that they get paid for it. And it reaches so many different spaces, so not everyone has seen the stances made by a particular site. People take this and go, yeah, what this site has to say is irrelevant, so we don't care. And that's fair to believe, but there's also a flip side to this as well. Like I said before, people usually don't care for what reviewers or what certain sites have to say about what it is they're consuming, unless they agree with them. People will look at a trailer for something and go, this looks like trash, I'm not gonna watch. Fine, you saw the trailer and made up your own opinion on it. Now it's time for when said movie, show, game, or whatever comes out, but what this person does is, they don't interact with it. But what they will see is a review left by someone on that same site they don't care for, but this time the critic is agreeing with what they have to say. And that preconceived notion of not liking them before has flown out of the window because now they have an agreement. Now the person feels validated because someone else managed to follow through with what they were originally thinking, and they don't have to put in any more work to justify it. Someone else has now said it. We live in a time where people of today don't form their own opinions anymore. They would rather let someone else speak for them and they'll go along with it if it sounds nice enough. Critics are no different. Depending on what or who was doing the reviewing, that'll be the outcome of it. Like a game will come out and you expect it to be great. You play it and it's fantastic. You wait to see what others have to say and oh look, IGN is praising the game. So you share that review around. Even with the marred reputation it has before, it looks cool to be able to say you were right and you have the backing that you do to give you that say-so. This happens all the time. Even when something is awful, there's a safety in knowing that the work you have to put in on your end to help come up with your own opinion is done for because you can just link an article and that's the end of it. Even at award shows.
I'm so in love with my brother right now.
Now everyone holds award shows to a very low regard because of the track record they hold until they get it right. It's the same with critics. For as much as people complain or say they don't care for critic scores, they do like when they can recognize something is good to them. Plus it looks nice to bring up in a conversation that something is critically acclaimed. Makes it feel like it has some worth now over what just some people are saying. Funny how that works, huh? A lot of critics, especially nowadays, tend to look through certain lenses whenever they critique media, whether it be from a political lens, a business lens, and so forth. And with that, it muddies the critique because now what they're saying is aimless. It was supposed to be about the movie, TV show, or whatever, but now it's detached from that into something else, and people don't go to them for that. They just want to know if they should spend their time on something or if they can be doing something else. Critics also talk very flowery. They'll speak to you with an advanced vocabulary, which most of the time they aren't saying anything of worth in the review, but hey, it looks pretty on paper. It always makes them sound like they're better than you at how they view media, and no one likes to be made out to be stupid. The pretentiousness of it all rubs people the wrong way. It's the talking down to you natures if you can't string together your own sentences is what adds to people having hatred for critics. At times they'll misrepresent what they're talking about and expect you to agree with what they say. It's very disingenuous and people will call this out, especially if it happens often. As I said before, but what makes it especially more annoying for the people is the fact that these same critics get paid to push out the reviews that they do. You can go on said platform that you have with a ton of viewers and just write down or say anything and you get money for it. Doesn't matter if the review holds any weight, it was said by someone with great rapport with the people that it now holds more weight over what you have to say on it. Now, my thoughts on critics versus the people is that I understand both sides. I have a background in film. I've gone to a film school and not just studied, but I actually got hands-on work with the process of writing and being able to shoot my own work. So in this field, you will be open to criticism from people higher up than you. If you think critics are miserable individuals, then you haven't met other writers or, for the matter, teachers, because we're in a world where we're not the average viewer. We're actually making the content. Your work is being looked at with a more artistic eye, and they feel just as a critic would on the internet. Your work will be systematically picked apart on a fundamental level, and most people don't do that when you talk about entertainment. Now, there is a place for these people to give their stances, but do we feel as if they should be the end-all be-all? No. I more encourage average viewers to come to their own conclusions, and if you want, you should be able to converse with the people of the opposing side to see if discourse can be made. A main problem is that the discourse is not being had with critics and the average viewer. It's really a one-sided shouting match and critics just go on to review something else. If anything, I find that people would be less harsh on critics if critics believe they could be wrong on what it is they said prior. There is no shame in going back on a past review or even making a new review in case you've changed with how you view work or to be able to right some wrongs. It shows growth and not many critics do that. It would help to humanize them instead of them being these almost robotic sets of people. Me personally, I've never let a critic influence how I felt on media or else I would enjoy next to nothing, but I get why they exist. I pay more attention to what the people are saying, seeing as I interact with them more, and as a writer I need to have an eye on what the people want, which is the majority, and critics are only the minority. Either way though, I am also one of those people that like to gauge where I get my reviews from, but I haven't watched someone review something in ages. All in all, what do you guys think? Do you care for critics? Do you like them or despise them? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you all next time.